Okay, so let's see. I got my baby monitor and I'm here to record another video. So on my walk the other day, I was having this conversation with the Lord and I really wanted to share it with you guys. So I was kind of processing through this one time, probably 9 or 10 years ago, actually maybe longer. I was walking this nature preserve and there's this pond with all these ducks and they're swimming around, and I sat down to watch the ducks and I felt like the Lord whispered to my heart, all you have to be is a duck in the pond. And it sounded kind of funny because, you think about like analogies of great things that you want to be, like an eagle or a lion. I'm like, Jesus, why are you telling me to be a duck? Like, I'm just sitting there kind of like taking this moment in. And it really hit something deep in my heart of comparison. So I think growing up in the church, and especially going to a ministry school and seeing all these really awesome, amazing, powerful people, it was really hard for me not to slip into comparison and think that I needed to look exactly like somebody else, or even realizing places in my heart where I wanted to kind of morph myself into the image of what was celebrated. Even in my ministry school, people who were celebrated were loud, they were energetic, they were high energy, they were, they took up the room, they were evangelistic, they were passionate, they were open air preachers, and they chased after people to pray for healing. There are certain attributes that I'm like, oh, that gets attention and that is praise, and I could do that. I could be that. But I didn't realize all along, and kind of like pushing and leaning into those things, that I was also kind of like denying a piece of who I was. And so in this season, I felt like the Lord was speaking to me of being secure in who He had made me to be. Being the duck in the pond meant, if God made me to be a duck, then I don't have to try to be a different kind of bird. I don't have to try to be the eagle flying by, or the pelican, or or any other kind of animal. Because if God created me to be a duck, then I could just be a duck. I could just be Kaylee. I could just be me, and that would be enough. And I watched the ducks in the pond, and they weren't striving and they weren't trying really hard. They were just swimming around, and they were just looking for little things to eat and shimmying their little bodies. And honestly, it sounds funny to say it, but I think this was one of like a life-changing moment for me with Jesus, where I just felt deep down in my heart a settling of, I can just be a duck in the pond. I don't have to strive. I don't have to perform for love. I don't have to like try to be or work something up or do something amazing. I could just be me and be at rest with God was glorified with me swimming around in a pond. And to me, that translated of like, He is glorified in my every single day life, in doing the best that I know how to do and letting that be worship to Him. I didn't have to be this amazing superstar Christian who did all these wonderful things and changed the world and went to Africa. Even though all those things were in my heart, I just needed to know. I need to encounter His love. So anyways, the other day I was on a walk and I was kind of processing this out again and remembering I just get to be a duck in the pond. And as I was on my walk, I'm trying to remember back for you guys, I was kind of having this dialogue. I like to talk out loud when I walk with Jesus. I go on these morning walks and I often talk to Jesus like He's standing right there next to me, and I just kind of go on and I'll talk about things that are on my heart, and then I'll kind of wait for Him to listen and respond, and listen for those heart whispers and those feelings and things that stick out to me. So anyways, I was walking, back to my story, and I was just thinking like, man, if God made me a rose bush, then I don't have to try to be an apple tree. And this might sound so elementary and so like, well, duh, matter of fact, but it's just really been speaking to me. If God made me a rose bush, then I get to be a rose bush, and I don't have to try to be an apple tree or an acorn or a mountain or a frog or a bird or a bunny. And it sounds funny, but it makes sense, right? It's so in your face. Like, it makes sense. I'm not going to try to be any of those things. The problem comes in when I believe that God has made me to be a rose bush, and then I'm sitting in a circle of rose bushes. That's when it's really hard not to get into comparison. So if I believe that God created me to be a mama who stays at home and loves my babies and serves my family to the core of my being with everything that I have, I find identity and purpose in that. And I don't feel like I struggle with comparing myself to like a business owner or a missionary. I've kind of worked through like, okay, I know what my lane is. I know what my season is. I feel like I can understand that I don't have to keep like, I'm supposed to do this or that or that. It's like, no, I'm a rose. I'm a mom. In this season, this is my lane. This is where I am. And yet, the comparison, it feels trickier when the person next to me actually looks exactly like me, right? That's where it gets tricky. So not comparing myself to the mom who also has 3 kids who lost the baby weight, or not comparing myself to the mom who has the same income bracket as me, but their marriage is just thriving and mine's in survival mode. That's when I feel like comparison is hard. When the person next to you looks so much like you, it almost feels normal to compare. It almost feels like when you're looking at 2 things and they look pretty similar, but one of them is just a little different, that's where I feel like comparison really can sneak in my heart. Like, well, she also just had a baby at the same time as me, but she already lost the extra 30 pounds, like, well, she also wants to preach the gospel and do online stuff, but she's way farther along than me and she's younger than me. Like, that's where I feel like comparison sneaks in. And I know this is true for anyone, but honestly for myself, I'm speaking to myself. When I allow comparison to enter in my heart, when I start entertaining it, man, does it just suck the life out of me. I feel like the only fruit that I've ever found in comparison is either feeling better than other people or feeling less than other people. And feeling better than other people is like, man, that's a high horse I don't want to be on, because it's so easy to just knock me off of it the moment someone better than me walks in the room, right? And then feeling less than other people is like, man, that just robs my creativity. It robs my hope, my inspiration, my confidence, my joy. It undermines every part of my identity that I hold dear when I start comparing myself to the person next to me. So this is, I would say, one of the biggest struggles of comparison for me is probably like body image or in motherhood. Like, I see moms that are just, it looks like from the outside they're just crushing it, which honestly is nobody's story, right? We all have areas where there's like higher and lower points, but I think for me, that's an area where I'm like, okay, I need to figure this out. I need to figure out what's going on in my heart. Like, why am I disqualifying myself? And here's the last part of what I want to share, which hopefully I'm not just rambling. You guys are tracking with me. So I think the thing about comparison is, because God made lots of rose bushes, right? He made so many different ducks, and they're all the same kind. There's tons of the same kind of animal. There's tons of lions. There's tons of ducks. There's tons of humans. There's tons of moms. There's tons of moms like me. And yet there's these differences, right? There's differences of personality, there's differences of appearance, there's difference of passion, of career, of intention, of dreams and desires, and like there's just so many different differences in the same kind. So I felt like what the Lord was saying to me on my walk, I felt like just dropping this revelation in my heart of the thing about, say I'm a rose bush, and then there's another rose bush right next to me that has these vibrant, bright, beautiful, budding rose-colored flowers and pristine, like everything just looks so good on this rose bush. If I look at myself in comparison to that, I will fall short. But if I look at myself and I see what is possible, if I see the potential that I have to become also that rose bush, I feel like God was showing me that in on one side of the coin, there's comparison. But on the other side of the coin, there is the prophetic potential of God saying, hey, look what is in your heart. Look what is possible. Look at what you can become. And so I was just finding myself kind of repositioning my heart in celebration of the women and the mamas and the ones who've lost the weight, and like all these different things in my heart where I know in the depth of my heart, I only feel insecure because I want that. I want that very same thing. But when I compare and I decide that they are, either judge them for having it, or I decide that they're better than me and I'm less, then I disqualify myself from stepping into the very thing that God put in my heart. I feel like that's what it is. It's like when somebody walks in the room who literally has the very thing that you've been crying out to God for. Like, I've been crying out to God for my future husband or for a baby. And then I literally watch the person next to me get exactly what I've been asking God for. There is an opportunity to look at my heart and say, can I celebrate them? Can I celebrate the breakthrough that they had and believe that actually the breakthrough that they're carrying, the breakthrough of the dream or the desire or whatever part of their life that I admire, God's actually placing that in front of my face to say, this is possible, and also to prophesy that breakthrough over me. And if I can position my heart in a place of honor and celebration, I can receive from the breakthrough of that person. I can honor that they have done it, that they've actually paved the way, that it is possible to get the financial breakthrough or the next baby or the husband and the marriage of my dreams or the body that I really desire. You know, like there's all these different dreams and desires locked in each one of our hearts. And I truly, truly believe that the perversion that the enemy brings is comparison. But what God intended is to prophesy our breakthrough, and he will bring people into our lives, into our worlds that have the very thing that we desire. And we can choose to honor and accept it and believe. So I found myself even with this YouTube stuff being like, okay, instead of going and seeing what everybody else is doing and how they're doing it right and how far along they are and how cool and how pretty they are and all these things and then disqualifying myself, instead, can I see what other people are doing and celebrate it and say, wow, God, I feel something in my heart that resonates so deeply with what they're doing, and you're showing me I'm made for that too. So anyways, it's just something I was thinking about that I wanted to share with you guys, and that's all. Hope it blesses you guys. Bye.